fish just don't see a 10-inch worm or any other type of those smaller ribbon tail worms. So I'm going to give you my 3 favorite worms. These ones are proven to catch big fish and catch lots of fish. So the first option when I get into the summer months, it's an old monster. It's a 10-inch worm. You know, a lot of companies make a good 10-inch worm and they just flat out catch fish that are this big to this big. So we have nothing is getting eliminated. But I think, you know, I don't really have to show you how to rig this, but I'm going to give you my setup just in case you may have gotten away from this technique because you just don't like the hook that you throw in it, or, you know, it's just one of those things that, I never used to catch them on it, so I stopped throwing it. And very important to keep throwing this. So I typically fish this on a 1/4 ounce weight, like 90% of the time. I'm fishing this anywhere from like 10 to 5 feet of water in the summer months. And I like a 5/0, and that is a Gamakatsu round bend worm hook. I think the 5/0 is very important on a 10-inch worm. So I'm going to rig it up for you guys real quick. Not that anyone needs to see how this is rigged, but just show you how that 5/0 fits that. And a worm is one of those baits where, you know, they're gonna get that in their mouth pretty easily. So you don't need to go any bigger than that 5/0. So rarely, if a fish grabs it back here, you just got to give them more time to eat it. And you should feel them when they're really on there. You can feel them. When they have it out here, it just, you know, they might be just tapping at it and you don't really feel the weight of the fish. Wait until you feel the weight of the fish. And when you really feel it, then you know they got it. And that 5/0 hook fits that 10-inch worm great. Now, if I go down to like a 7.5, this is one of those baits where I'm thinking I'm throwing the 10-inch, I'm doing everything that I need to, and I have a kid in my boat, he's throwing this one, and he catches the only 6-pounder of the day. So this is a Zoom Mag 2. I didn't think this was even necessary until I got beat by this a couple times. So a Zoom Mag 2, just an awesome 7.5 or whatever this is. Maybe it's a little bigger than that, 8 or 9-inch worm, I don't know. But this thing flat out catches them too. It's not a whole lot different, but for some reason, I've just been on the water where this has done better than the 10-inch. So I rigged that up on the 5/0 as well. They both fit a 5/0 round bend worm hook really well. And it's going to be almost exactly the same, but that 5/0 on these bigger worms. But there you go. Not much different in those two worms, but I do think there is a time where you need to have them both. And you probably do have them both, so use them because they both do work. Now, the last worm, this is near and dear to my heart. A Zoom U-tail worm. Now, this is about as finessey as you can get when you are throwing a ribbon tail worm. But here's the deal with this bait. In Florida is where I figured this out. And if you're down in Florida, I'm not messing with you. You've got to try this worm. So I've seen 3 8-pounders caught on this worm. Out of like, I've only seen in my life maybe 7 or 8 8-pounders ever caught. 3 of them have come on this little bitty worm. So in Florida, when they won't pick up a trick worm, they won't pick up a speed worm, this gets the nod. So I like this on a 4/0 rebarb robo worm hook. I don't like a round bend worm hook. I just think it's too overpowering and it takes too much of the action out of the worm. So I'll show you what it looks like on this little straight shank robo worm rebarb hook. And I Texpose everything unless I'm like punching or I'm flipping heavy stuff. So there it is. That's on a 1/4 ounce, and that is a Zoom U-tail worm. This is great in all situations. Doesn't matter if it's submergent vegetation, emergent vegetation. This little worm is a killer bait. And I don't think people throw it a whole lot because it just looks like a whole lot of nothing. But I've seen 3 8-pounders caught on it. So it's near and dear to my heart. And when it gets tough, you might be going through a little window where they stop biting the 10-inch worm or the 7.5-inch worm. Go to that Zoom U-tail. You'll be surprised.